Namaste everyone. Thank you for joining in this video. So this is again a recorded version of the Jyotish Foundation class, and even this week I was unable to take the class due to some personal reasons. So this week's class is also being shared as a recorded version. So I'll just request all of you to leave your questions as comments in the feedback section so that I can get back to you at the right time. Okay. So in the last class, we had discussed about the planets in the houses and we had completed till Mars. And today we'll be looking at Mercury. Okay. So Mercury is a planet that represents the intellectual ability. It also represents small children. Okay. So when Mercury goes to the first house, the native will be surrounded by friends. Okay. He or she will be sweet-tongued, learned, would be keenly interested in mathematics and also well-versed in scriptures. Okay. A peculiar thing about Mercury in the first house is that such a person will retain a youthful appearance in his or her face till they are very old. Okay. Even when they are around 80, they will still have a youthful appearance to their face. All right. In the second house, it gives good speech unless afflicted. It makes you well versed. It gives very good schooling basically, because the second house is also your schooling. Okay. And it gives you wealth as well as enjoyment of mixed food. Okay. So people having second house Mercury, they will have a great knack towards eating food that has a mixed taste. Okay. In the third house, it produces a wavering disposition. Okay. And third house is the house of communication. Okay. So it can produce good communication, but if Mercury is afflicted, it can make communication which is very deceitful. Okay. It is also a combination for astrologers. Okay. And it gives good siblings, good younger siblings. Okay. In the fourth house, Mercury feels uncomfortable. All right. So, some people regard fourth house as the Maran Karan Sthana of Mercury, but then it also gives you, good knowledge of, of various subjects. It also blesses you with a lot of friends. Okay. Fifth house. So this is again a very good combination for learning, and it makes you very proficient in mantras. Okay. And it also produces children who are very, very, very happy-go-lucky characters. Okay. In the sixth house, Mercury, this, in my opinion, is the best position for Mercury to be in, because then you'll be able to come out of any problem through your intelligence. Okay. But then sixth house Mercury can also make you easily angered and quarrelsome. It can make you argumentative. Okay. And it can also, but then, as I said, you can easily conquer your opponents through the power of your words, through the power of your speech. All right. In the seventh house, Mercury again, just hold on. In the seventh house, Mercury gives you a lot of knowledge. Okay. And, seventh house is the house of partnerships. So wealth is the primary reason why you form partnerships if you have Mercury in the seventh house. Okay. By the way, seventh house is also regarded as the Maran Karan Sthana of Mercury. Okay. In the eighth house, Mercury makes one, a very good money manager. Okay. It can give you wealth and status equivalent to a king, and it can also make you very famous. Okay. Mercury always does good in the eighth house, in my opinion. In the ninth house, it makes you a good planner. It makes you a very clever speaker. It also makes you very opulent and learned, as well as virtuous and righteous. Okay. Just hold on. I'm expecting my plumber. Okay. So in the ninth house, as I said, it makes you very opulent as well as learned. It makes you a very good speaker. Okay. It makes you a very clever speaker as well as very virtuous and righteous. Okay. In the 10th house, it makes you a very good planner. Okay. In 10th house, if you have 10th house Mercury, you are a task breaker. That means you can take you can, what you should do is you should take a task and, break it down into several parts and then execute each part to complete the task. Okay, that is the meaning of task breaker. Okay, it makes you a very good short-term planner. Okay, Jupiter is long-term planning, Mercury is short-term planning, and it also makes you very efficient at your work. In the 11th house, Mercury makes you, wealthy. It gives fame. It gives, wealth through friends as well as through your elder siblings. And it also makes you indulgent in physical pleasures of the body. Okay. 12th house is the worst position for Mercury to be in because it takes away your sleeping ability. Okay. It also makes you very indolent, repulsive, and miserable. It can give a lot of knowledge, however, but that knowledge is usually a surface based knowledge. Okay. It also makes you sweet tongued. Okay. So next we come to Jupiter. So Jupiter again, Jupiter gets Digbala in the first house. So it makes you very learned, it makes you long lived. It gives you very good looks as well as a balanced outlook towards life. Okay, not to speak about the wealth that it brings. And there is a saying that Jupiter in Lagna can help you overcome all the other doshas in the horoscope. Okay. Second house. So this makes you wealthy. It makes you an eloquent speaker, gives you good looks because second house also represents the face. It can give you a round face. And it can make you fond of sweet food as well as it makes you very helpful to others. Okay. In the third house, this is the Maran Karan Sthan of Jupiter. So this is not a good position of Jupiter, or this is not a good position for Jupiter to be in because it makes you very timid. Okay, it makes you, miserable. It also gives you a poor digestive system, but it is good for, the prosperity of your siblings, your younger siblings. Okay. Fourth house, again, this is another Digbala position for Jupiter. So it blesses you with all sorts of comfort, wealth, vehicle, wisdom, near and dear ones, etc. Okay. And it makes you very contented. Okay. Because that is the karma of Jupiter to bring you contentment. Okay, Jupiter exalts in the fourth house, natural fourth house of Cancer. So in the fourth house, even if Jupiter is debilitated, it still give you good results. Okay. In the fifth house, this will make you very learned and famous. It will make you wealthy and virtuous. But then you may suffer because of your children. Okay, because Jupiter, wherever it sits, it can impact a particular signification of the house. So in the fifth house, Jupiter brings suffering from children. Okay. Sixth house, people would say this is a bad position for Jupiter to be in, but I've seen many healers and many doctors having this combination, but then it can give you poor digestion. It can make you very henpicked. Okay. And sixth house, people having sixth house Jupiter, even if people come to fight them, they'll run away after looking at the goodness. Okay. But sixth house Jupiter also makes one very lustful, very, for physical pleasures. Seventh house, this is the Dikshunya position for Jupiter, so not a good place to be in. Okay. It gives you a very learned and famous spouse. Okay. And it brings a lot of blessings from partnerships as well as from the from the parents of the native. Okay. 8th house Jupiter. This makes you very selfish. Okay, it makes you very selfish. This indicates that you will not be able to earn much from a business, but you rather earn good from job or service, and it can give rise to adultery. Okay, just hold on. 9th house Jupiter. So this makes you very devout and learned. It is a dharmastan, so it makes you very competitive. Okay, and this is a position where you can say that if someone has a 9th house Jupiter, then at least one of the children will be a son. Okay, it is also a combination to make a leader or a minister. 10th house Jupiter. So the native is very disciplined. They can complete their undertakings with perfection. They possess a lot of wealth, wisdom, health, and virtue. 11th house Jupiter. So this is very, very good for gains. It makes you very wealthy, steadfast, and long lived. However, it can be harmful towards the health of your children. 12th house Jupiter. So this is again a good position for Jupiter. It makes you engage in devotional service or service to hospitals as well as to monasteries and temples. 12th house Jupiter, people having that, they will find it very difficult to say no to other people. Okay. So now let's look at Venus. So now we look at Venus. Venus is the planet of beauty. Venus is the planet of pleasure and resources. In the first house, Venus makes you good looking. It makes you amorous, not amorous, amorous. Okay. Learned, happy and long lived. Okay. Venus in the first house gives you a very beautiful and very pleasant appearance. In the second house, it makes one very wealthy, graceful, good speaker and a poet. Okay. Because, Venus is related to poetry. Okay. Second house Venus also gives very beautiful eyes. That is the reason Parashara calls Venus as Sulokshana, the one with beautiful eyes. In the third house, Venus gives you a lot of short distance travel. It makes you rich, but then it makes you disinclined towards physical venture because it is a Jalagraha. In the fourth house, so this is a good position for Venus to be in because this is the Digbala position for Venus. So it gives happiness and comfort in terms of conveyance, in terms of good, in terms of a palatial house or a house having very good interiors. It also is good for, buying ornaments and clothes and vehicles and branded shoes. Okay, that's what I've seen. In the fifth house, Venus makes one very sensuous, very romantic, blessed with comforts, as well as it bestows good looks. In the sixth house, Venus brings problems. This is the worst place for Venus to be in. Okay, because you get very little appreciation from your spouse. Okay, no matter what you do, your spouse will not appreciate you for who you are. Okay, for what you do to sustain the marriage. Okay, so it makes you very miserable. It can give rise to poor health. In the seventh house, Venus makes you very quarrelsome. Okay, it gives lovely looks because from the seventh house, Venus will be looking directly at the ascendant, and it makes you associated with beautiful women, but those women may be of low character, okay, or loose character. Eighth house, so this is a good place for Venus to be in. It gives you a long life. It gives you opulence from your in-laws, and it also gives physical comforts which are equivalent to a king. Okay, so in the modern context, it means it brings grace, or it brings gifts from the government. Okay, ninth house Venus, so this makes you very learned. It makes you work in the field of beauty, and it makes you religiously inclined, giving you physical comforts. Okay, 10th house Venus is not good. Okay, it is not considered to be good in the 10th house because it prevents completion of work. Okay, but then 10th house Venus often always ensures that the people you work under, they are mostly females. Okay, in the 11th house Venus makes one wealthy, but it can bring association with women who are of dubious character. Okay, 12th house Venus, this is the best place for Venus to be in. Okay, and it represents that you are very indolent towards physical pleasures. You are you have a very good eye for beauty. Okay, but then it also represents someone who has, it also gives multiple breakups. Okay, it makes you debauched in a sense. All right, now Saturn, there is a lot of misconceptions associated with Saturn. Okay, in the first house, this is the Marankaran sthan of Saturn, so it makes one very miserable, indolent, lustful, ugly and sickly, as well as it can give defective limbs, as well as can give rise to body malfunctions. Okay, now if Saturn is placed in Lagna, okay, there are exceptions here. If Saturn is placed in a Lagna, it is not always bad, but then if Saturn is placed in Lagna, it gives good results if it is in its exaltation sign, that is in Libra or Tula. If it is in its own sign, that means Makara or Kumbha, and if it is in the signs of Jupiter, and if it is in the signs of Jupiter, that means Sagittarius and Pisces, because if Saturn sits in Jupiterian signs, it always expands the significations of those houses which are ruled by Jupiter. This is not only applicable for the first house, it is applicable for any house. Okay, so as I said, in Libra or in Capricorn and Aquarius, or in Sagittarius and Pisces, Saturn in the first house, it makes one equivalent to a king, okay, because Saturn is the kingmaker. It also makes one long-lived, virtuous, and scholarly. Okay. In the second house, it is not good because it causes, Saturn is Vayu Tattva, so it causes, breakage in the family or lineage. Okay? It also makes one destitute. It can make one very untruthful and indigent. Okay. It can make one suffer from oral cavity. All right. And I've seen people having second house Saturn, they may earn, a lot. They may end up making their own house or building their own house, but eventually they are forced to quit their place of residence. Okay. In the third house, Saturn is good because third house is the house of effort. So it signifies making wealth through your own effort. Okay. So it makes one liberal, it makes one full of wisdom as well as wealthy, but that wealth is not going to come directly. It is going to take time. Fourth house. So this is the worst position for Saturn to be in my opinion, because it gives you a lot of emotions which are unreconciled. Okay. It gives you, it pushes you away from motherly love. It pushes you away from the love of near and dear ones. Okay. And it makes you sick in your early age. Fifth house. So, it indicates that, the native must have only an arranged marriage, not love marriage. And sometimes I have seen a lot of cases of mental insanity coming from fifth house Saturn. Such natives are always fickle minded. They usually are unhappy. And in the sixth house, Saturn again, it's good in the sixth house. Okay. Saturn is good in the sixth house. It makes one wealthy. Okay. It makes one good in looks, but then it can mean that you have a lot of torment coming from your enemies. Okay. Sixth house Saturn can actually make one a Hitler in work. Okay. That means it can give you an attitude of my way or the highway. Okay. Seventh house Saturn. So seventh house is the Digbala of Saturn. Okay. But then, although it is the Digbala, it will give you pain from relationships. Okay. It gives you an ailing spouse, an indigent spouse, as well as a spouse who is sickly, unclean, and repulsive. Why does that happen? Because the seventh house is the house of relationships, and the highest karma comes from your relationships. Okay. The highest pain comes from your relationships. Eighth house. So this is a position for, for longevity. Okay. But then it can also bring you a lot of body pains and can also make you suffer from perennial, perennial diseases. Okay. So ninth house, eighth house Saturn is good for longevity, but then that longevity may force you to spend your last remaining years on bed. Okay. Saturn is not good in the ninth house. It makes you irreligious. It makes you unfortunate in affairs of the ninth house, including that with fathers and gurus. It is also very adverse for the father. Okay. Now, don't take these predictions on face value. Okay. For example, don't judge the entire chart on the basis of a single factor. Like Saturn in the ninth house, as I said, it's not good, but then it has actually produced two of the greatest spiritual giants from India, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa as well as Ma Anandamayi. Okay. So Ramakrishna Paramahansa, of course, had a retrograde Saturn with Rahu Atmakaraka. So that is also one of the reasons why Saturn did good in the ninth house. Okay. 10th house, Saturn makes you learned, wealthy, and powerful. Okay. It can make you a judge or a leader as well as proud and heroic. But then Saturn in the 10th house can make you close-minded. That means you are not open to new suggestions, new ideas. 11th house Saturn, this is the best position for Saturn to be in because it brings a stable growth. It brings good health. It helps you to build your wealth slowly yet steadily. Okay. It makes you voluptuous and long-lived. 12th house, this is bad for marital happiness. It can give defective vision. It can make you a spendthrift as well as shameless and miserable. Okay. 12th house Saturn is very, very bad for physical pleasure between husband and wife. All right. So next we come to Rahu. So if you want to know how Rahu and Ketu work in detail, I'll still go through through what Parashara says. But if you want to know how Rahu and Ketu work in detail, then you have to go through my Kala Sarpa course, which is of course free for everyone to attend. Okay. So Rahu, Rahu is beneficial in the houses 3, 6, and 11. Okay. In the 10th also, it is considered to be beneficial, but in my opinion, it's not so, because 10th house Rahu makes you hanker after fame. Okay. In the first house, it makes you very cruel, wealthy, but short-lived. Okay. Courageous but wicked, without compassion. Ugly hairs, ugly nails and looks, and diseases in upper part of the body. Okay. Now Rahu in Lagna, where the Lagna is either Pisces or Cancer or Leo. In that case, it brings pleasures and affluence. Okay. Rahu in Lagna looked at by benefics, then it can produce all sorts of comforts and enjoyments. In the second house, Rahu can make one quarrelsome. It can give a lot of family issues from ancestors. Okay. And the speech may be unclear. There could be diseases in the oral cavity. Such people may speak with hidden meanings, and they may deal with animal skins or sales of fishes, etc. Okay. In the third house, Rahu makes one very valiant and proud. Okay. So this is the best position for Rahu, in my opinion. Okay. It also gives you a lot of, a lot of courage. Okay. Because the third house is the house of courage. And Rahu in the fourth house, so it is a combination where you are struggling with your emotions, where you're struggling with your mind, where you're struggling with your relationships. So it can transform one into a destitute. It can make one very foolish, bereft of wealth and physical comforts, and also opposed to the spouse. Okay. Fifth house, so it makes one very easily angered, and it can make someone can be harmful to children. Okay. There are people who take children as if they are trying to take that child on their lap, but then all of a sudden they may just drop the child. Okay. But then such people are very compassionate. I've seen a lot of environmentalists having Rahu in the fifth house. Okay. So these people also suffer from certain kind of phobias as well as abdominal ailments. Sixth house, again, it's good for destroying enemies, but it also gives terrible enemies in the first place. Okay. So it is also a combination where the person can resort to adultery or, perianal disease. But then sixth house Rahu is good for long life. Okay. Seventh house, so this brings losses of wealth through women. It can represent adultery. It can represent lack of relationships as well. Okay, eighth house Rahu, so this can make you suffer badly from vata related illness. Okay. And eighth house Rahu, you need to be really, really careful with your vehicles. Okay, because it can, you can just go and bang your vehicle to some vehicle somewhere, it can catch fire and you may become short-lived. Okay. Ninth house, so this is the worst position for Rahu to be in, because ninth is the house of dharma and Rahu is the highest, adharmi. So ninth house Rahu will always produce opposition from the father. It can also make you tormented by your enemies. Okay. So 10th house. So, 10th house Rahu usually brings a great desire for fame, but it also makes one very fearless as well as helpful to others. Engaged in sensuous pursuits. Okay. It can make one very learned, can transform one into a wealthy minister. Okay. 11th house. So this is again a very good position for Rahu to be in, because it makes one wealthy, long-lived, as well as it makes one have a very ardent sense of pleasure and comfort. Okay. So these are people, of few words, but they are well versed in scriptures, and they usually are forced to live in a foreign land. 12th house. So this will, take away your comfort. Okay. In the 12th house, if Rahu goes into the 12th house, the native spends the entire day looking for alternatives, looking for things that will give him or her freedom. But in the end of the day, they become only more and more entangled. Okay. So it can also bring sickness or suffering from water-related diseases. And, it can uproot you from your home and take you somewhere else. Okay. Next, we come to Ketu. Now we look at Ketu. Okay. So Ketu again is a dire malefic. Okay. And it represents detachment. Okay. It represents things that are not under our control. Okay. In the first house, Ketu makes one sickly, avaricious, worrisome, displaced from residence and status, fear from wicked people, injured body, and it can make you suffer from vata disorders. Now, if Ketu is in Lagna and is aspected by benefics, then it can bring you a lot of pleasures in life. Okay. Ketu in Lagna in either Aquarius or Capricorn, in that case, it can make you very wealthy and blessed with children. Okay. In the second house, it makes one bereft of learning and wealth. It gives diseases of the eye or oral cavity, unclear speech, opposed to his near and dear ones, and it can make you devoid of food so that you're forced to eat at houses of others. Okay, but then if Ketu is located in the second house in the sign of either Jupiter or Mercury or Venus, in that case it brings a lot of physical comforts. Okay, third house, it gives rise to fanaticism. It gives rise to religious fanaticism. It makes you suffer from pain in your hands. Okay, it makes you virtuous as well as wealthy. Fourth house, again, a lot of emotional repression. It causes a lot of emotional repression. Okay, it causes loss of wealth as well as displacement from motherland or homeland or home country, and it can also make one indulge in propagating malicious gossip. In the fifth house, Ketu brings diseases of the abdomen. It gives rise to a lot of phobias. It makes one scared of water as well as lack in learning and progeny. Okay. Sixth house, so it gives surprisingly it gives good health. Okay, it makes one generous and erudite, but then it can bring problems through maternal uncle as well as gains from four-footed animals like horses. Okay. Seventh house, so it takes away the comforts that you expect from your wife. Okay, it makes you wander aimlessly. It brings problems from partnerships. It causes loss of wealth, fear from water, as well as humiliation. Okay, the seventh house Ketu, I've seen if these people get married, they find it very, very difficult to accept that they are married unless and until they have a child which is a male child. Okay. Now, if Ketu is in the seventh house in the sign of Scorpio, then it brings a lot of benefits. Okay, eighth house Ketu, it takes away, it takes you away from your in-laws. It brings about, it brings separation from in-laws. It can cause accidents or injury from weapons. It can make one very avaricious, desirous of wealth, as well as desirous of the spouse of others. Okay, and it makes one indulge in a lot of immoral activities. Okay, but then if Ketu is in the eighth house in the signs of Aries or Taurus or Gemini or Virgo or Scorpio, then it leads to gain of wealth. Okay, in the ninth house, Ketu makes one very short tempered. Okay, it brings hostility to the father. It can make one bereft of brothers and sisters. It can make one very arrogant. It can cause diseases in the upper limbs. But then, it makes one fortunate with the help of people who are considered to be mlech. Mlech means people of different religion. Okay, like Muslims or Christians, or if you're a Muslim, then it could mean a Hindu, and so on. All right. In the 10th house, Ketu makes you very disciplined, very systematic, but then it can, it can give you more work than you can actually handle. Okay. However, such people, they love, they love having a table which is very messy. Okay. The Ketu in the 6th house, if Ketu in the 10th house, sorry, if it is in the houses of Aries or Taurus or Gemini or Scorpio, it can make one eliminate his or her enemies with ease, very easily. That is. In the 11th house, Ketu is not good because it cuts you away from your friend circle, but it can give you good looks. Okay, it makes you valiant and powerful. Okay, 12th house Ketu. So this is again not a very good placement for Ketu to be in because it causes immorality. It makes one commit a lot of sins. It gives diseases of of legs, feet, anal region, and eye, and it makes one very fickle-minded. Okay, so this was my assessment of different planets in different houses. We have covered all the 9 planets, all the Navagrahas. In the next class, which will be live, of course, we'll be looking at planets in different houses from the moon. Okay, and we'll be looking at the results that are mentioned by Manasagari. Okay, so hopefully that class will be on this Sunday. Okay, so thank you so much for joining in. As I said in the beginning of the session, please leave behind your questions at the comment section so that I can answer them at the appropriate time. And should you have any doubts or should you have a need for a consultation, kindly reach out at the number which is given in the description box. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone. Namaste. Om Gurave Namaha.